Now, yesterday we had jumped in with the, I skipped up ahead. Let's go to the beginning of Parsha now, 464. So, Torah starts like this. Ve'ata tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael, v'yikol elech Hashem et v'yizoch kosis lamor l'halos ner tomi. You shall command the b'nei Yisrael, they shall take for you fine oil, crushed for light, l'halos ner tomi. So, first of all, there's something very odd here. You don't address people by saying, you should take. There's a Gemara that says it is polite, it is proper etiquette, that when you want to start speaking to somebody, you address them by name. You don't just say you. You don't say you. Say, Azriel, I'd like you to take. You don't say you, I'd like you to, even when you go up to a friend, you don't say just start talking. Say his name. One of the most beloved sounds to people is their name. People love hearing their name. People love hearing their name. Most people like when their name is called. It gives, probably because the person feels, oh, I'm important. Somebody called my name. So people like to hear their name. So so the Torah, this is a very strange thing that Hashem says to Moshe, and you shall command the Jewish people. Hashem's talked to you. Usually it says, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe lemor, Vedaber Hashem al Moshe, right? All of a sudden, and you. So we find that in Parshat Tetzaveh is the one parsha in the Torah. What's unique about Parshat Tetzaveh? Moshe Rabbeinu's name does not appear anywhere in this parsha. From the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Parsha Shmos, from Parsha Shmos until the end of the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu's name will appear everywhere in every parsha in the Torah except Parshat Tetzaveh. Why doesn't it appear in Parshat Tetzaveh? Because at one point, Moshe Rabbeinu, according to the commentaries that say things are a bit out of order, that ein mukdam u'muchar b'Torah, that there is no chronological order to the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem by the golden calf, if you don't forgive the Jewish people, erase me from your book. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu erases Moshe from the book of Parshat Tetzaveh. However, what date of the year does Parshat Tetzaveh remarkably usually come out around? We're in the month of Adar now, right? What date came out? Besides Purim, it comes out on when was Zayin? Zayin Adar Aleph was Friday. Friday was Zayin Adar Aleph. So we're within the week of Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. So even though it's not spot on, but it's right around the period of Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday that what he calls. And there are commentaries, one of the commentaries says that specifically his name is left out because there are other religions, one specific one, that makes an issue out of their God's birthday. And we want to make sure that we don't make it confused. Well, just because it's his birthday doesn't mean he's our God, because he's not. He's our prophet. He's a Navi. He's not the God. So there is such a school of thought. But Moshe Rabbeinu's name is left out of the parsha. On the other hand, if you count, there are 101 psukim in Parshat Tetzaveh. If you take a look all the way at the end of the parsha, every parsha, right at the end of the parsha, there's a small note, which is a mnemonic on page 482. You'll see right at the end of the parsha, on 482, it says Kuf Aleph Psukim. It tells you how many Psukim there are in the Parsha. And then it says Michael Simon. And it says the mnemonic to remember that is the name Michael. Because Michael is the gematria of 101. So in Parshat Tetzaveh, you have 101 Psukim, but you don't have Moshe Rabbeinu's name. Now, why am I bringing up 101 Psukim? So you got to watch this. On the board, come here, you. This is my pet microphone. Stay right. What do I do with this? Can I put it over here? Will it stay? Is that fine? Is that okay? Okay. If we take a look on the board, is there a marker here? No markers? Okay, so I'll erase in the meantime. Okay, because you have to see this. This is pretty nifty.
There's one by the books, I think.
Oh, thank you. So there is if you watch this, yeah, it works. Works well. Here's the name Moshe, okay? Mem, Shin, Hey. Now, that's the name Moshe. Now, let's spell out, how would you spell the word mem in Hebrew? Mem? Mem. Mem, mem. How would you spell shin?
Shin.
Shin. Spell the word shin. How would you spell the word shin? Shin. Not in English. How would you spell it in Hebrew? Not shin, vav, nun. Shin. Shin, yud, nun. Right? Shin. And nun sofit. Nun, it doesn't make a difference. How do you spell hey? Hey. Hey, aleph. That's how you spell a hey. That's the official spelling of these letters. Now, if you take a look, how much is the letter mem? How much is the letter mem? 40. How much is the nun? 50. How much is the yud? 10. How much is an aleph? 1. 40 of 50 is 90, and 10 is 101. 101. That means even though Moshe Rabbeinu's name doesn't appear in the Parsha, the essence, the hidden essence of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is 101, appears in the Parsha. So we're not devoid, we are not without Moshe Rabbeinu any great length of time. But Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not in the Parsha because of the, what do you call it? Because Moshe Rabbeinu had asked Hashem to erase him from the Torah. Okay? Now, when it says the command, Ve'ata Tetzaveh, why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu is being commanded? You command the Jewish people. Why is Hashem commanding Moshe Rabbeinu? So the Mepharshim say Moshe Rabbeinu was upset. What was Moshe Rabbeinu upset about? He was upset that he didn't get to participate in the building of the Mishkan. The Jewish people are bringing the materials. They're going to be the building of Moshe Rabbeinu. I want to be part of the mitzvah also. Sometimes in life you see that the mitzvah is happening. I'd also want to be part of it. Says Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Ve'ata tetzaveh." You're going to do the commanding over here, meaning you share in the credit of the entire Michigan, because you are the one who is actually what's called mizakeh es harabim. You're the one who's causing the public to do the mitzvah. So don't be upset that you don't have an act, you don't participate in the physical building of the Mishnah. Don't be upset with in the physical building. But on the other hand, you are the one. It's all coming about through you. So since you're the one who's coming about through you, so it's like a guy who is like they have a what do you call it? There's a hospital in Bnei Brak called Mayane HaYeshua. So there's a big tzaddik named Rabbi Dr. Rothschild. He was a Steipler's doctor. He was the one who initiated this hospital in Bnei Brak. Mayane HaYeshua, so everything should be done according to halacha, and people should have a very conscientious treatment in the hospital. And Baruch Hashem, they have a very, very high rate of success with very, very difficult cases. They're doing a tremendous thing. Now, Dr. Rothschild is not working in every ward of the hospital. He can't possibly do everything in the hospital. He doesn't know. He may not even know how to do X-rays. You know, he's a doctor, he's an expert doctor, but he doesn't know every single thing about medicine. Yet, whatever happens in that hospital, it's all his credit, because he's the one who initiated the building of the house. He built the hospital, so he's the one who gets the credit. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who gets the credit over here. It all goes on your ledger, number one. Number two is that Moshe Rabbeinu was punished. What was his punishment? One of the punishments. He was, what? Going into Israel is one of them. What did you say?
Erased from the weekly Parsha.
He was erased from the Parsha. Even more than that, Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be the Kohen Gadol. Do you know that? And why did Moshe Rabbeinu lose the privilege? I don't know if punishment might be too harsh. He lost the privilege of being the Kohen Gadol. Why? Yeah, right.
The speech impaired a little bit or something?
The speech was impaired, but that wouldn't have been a problem. That wouldn't.
Nervous and he didn't really want. That's what I thought.
What they was nervous? No, that's why. You're right. That's why he didn't want to go to Paro to begin with. He just didn't want to go to Paro because he felt the speech impediment. But whatever the point was, Hashem said, "But you could do it," and he kept protesting. And at a certain point, he crossed the line where Kodesh Baruch Hu said, "Okay, Aaron's going to be Aaron, your brother, the Kohen." And when he said, "Aaron, your brother, the Kohen," at that point, he was telling Moshe, "You're no longer going to be the Kohen." Now, watch this. What are we going to talk about over here in the Parsha? Parsha is going to talk about all the garments of the Kohen, all the fancy garments over here, all the what we learned yesterday, the kavod l'tiferes, all the glamorous clothing of the Kohen. Now, if Moshe Rabbeinu's name is mentioned, so what's going to happen is, you can be hurt by that. And also, we're talking about the thing you're not going to get. Can you imagine a guy who wants to get a promotion in the office? and he doesn't get it. He wanted the promotion. Somebody else got the promotion. And then in lunchtime, we're all sitting around at lunchtime in the office. We have a lunch break where everybody's talking about, hey, Yaakov, hey, listen, Yaakov, hey, Yaakov, nice promotion. Boy, it's really great. A lot of perks, Yaakov. What's going on in your mind while that's happening? All right? Not too pleased. So to spare Moshe Rabbeinu's feelings over here, say he shouldn't be embarrassed, that we shouldn't be looking, oh, look at that, the Choshen, the ephod. Hey, what happened to Moshe? So we shouldn't be thinking of embarrassed Moshe Rabbeinu, so to speak. The Torah, out of sensitivity to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem leaves his name out of this parsha. And we learn a certain level of sensitivity. I just heard a story about a guy. There's a rabbi. I don't know where they were. They were sitting. A bunch of people were sitting in a room. They were in the rabbi's house or something, or at a banquet. I don't remember exactly what the scenario was. And this rabbi was the host, a big rav. So he asked, they finished eating, he said, he brought out tea for all the guests. And he gave everybody a half a cup of tea. Everybody got a half a cup of tea. He said, if anybody wants more, just ask me. Somebody asked him for more, so he gave him another half a cup. He kept giving half cups of tea. So after he finished the evening, one of his kids said to him, it would have been just so much easier to just give full. What were you going to the tea shortage? What happened? What happened in what do you go? Why were you only giving half cups of tea? So the father says, oh, you didn't notice? Notice what? He says there was one elderly man there who was sitting at the table, and his hands were shaking. He had very shaky hands. Sometimes old people have shaking hands. He says, I would have given him a full cup of tea, and he would have shaken it. He would have spilled. He would have been embarrassed. So the kid said to him, okay, so why'd you give him half a cup of tea? I said, but that would also be embarrassing. If I'd only give him half a cup of tea and everybody else got a full cup of tea, so then he'd still be embarrassed. So there was only one solution. Give everybody half a cup of tea. And I'd rather have to exert myself to go and give them more than half a cup of tea. That's the Torah teaches sensitivity. Sometimes every person has to be sensitive. My own father once, my mother went away on a trip. I think she went to Africa with one of these women's groups, not South Africa. They went to Africa, kind of the place where you got it. I just remember they had to get all sorts of shots right before they went. That sounds like fun. Let's go on vacation. First, let's get shot up like a pincushion, right? Malaria and chalaria, all the various things you got to avoid. Okay, so she went on this trip, and she went with a bunch of women, and one of the women was a close friend of hers. So then my mother was coming back. They flew back to Israel, and I knew when they were flying in. So I asked my dad if he's going, when he's going to the airport to pick her up. And he said he's not going to the airport, which was a shock. My parents said everything was together. Even when they punished me, it was together. It was all together. So I was very shocked. My parents married for over 50 years. Dad's not going to the airport. It turned out, why wasn't he going to the airport? I said, Dad, why aren't you going? Because the other lady's husband was incapacitated. And if my father would go to he felt if he'd go to the airport, the other lady would feel bad that her husband can't come to the airport. So he didn't go to the airport to pick her up. So the Torah is teaching that's what the Torah is teaching. Maybe probably just open the door over there, Mendel, if you open the door over there. Just push it over so you get some air. Thanks. So the Torah is teaching us, thank you. The Torah is teaching us sensitivity. So even Moshe Rabbeinu needs this sensitivity. Okay, now, more. What is the idea of, first of all, you want to see something neat. Oh, by the way, I heard another story. I got to tell you one other story. There was I think I might have told you this. There was a girl who was hijacked in 1970. Remember well, you don't remember, but in you might have read about it if you read, but even that's an assumption, right? But you might have seen it on Discovery Channel. What do you call it? There was a hijack. They hijacked 3 planes were hijacked to the Jordanian desert. Three planes and of Jews, and there was a big rabbi, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, was on one of the planes. This was in 1970, and I remember I was a little kid at the time, and Rabbi Hutner was on the plane. There was a little kid from Chicago also on the plane. I remember hearing his father on the radio. They were in the Jordanian desert for about 3 weeks. They were in the Jordanian desert, something like that. Then Black September broke out where the Jordanians killed about 10,000 Palestinians. It was a mess. In the end, the Jordanians, I remember they blew up the planes. They took the people off the planes and they blew up the planes. All the people managed to get back safely. Baruch Hashem, they all managed to get back safely. And the Harari brother, who's the big Sephardi Rav, Alan? Raful, Harari Raful. in one of the rough. He was also there. The brothers were there. Okay, so they finished with they came back. The day after they came back, there was a girl, about an 18-year-old girl on the plane. The day after the hijackers came back, her friend was getting married. And she said to her mother, I am emotionally drained, I am physically exhausted, but I have to go to this wedding. And her mother said to her, you're not going to the wedding. She said, Mom, I'm a big girl, I can handle it, I'll push myself, I go to. She said, you're not going to the wedding. She goes, Mom, listen, I'm not a little kid, I could push it, I'll come back and I'll sleep when I go. She said, that's not why you're not going to the wedding. She said, why can't I go to the wedding? She said, because at a wedding, the kala, the bride, has to be the center of attention. If you go to the wedding the day after you came back from being hijacked, you're going to be the center of attention. You're going to take away from that kala what's really hers. Therefore, you're not going to the wedding. How do you like that for sensitivity? So somebody said, sure, that was 50 years ago when people were still using their heads. And even more amazing is the girl actually listened to her mother. That also belongs in the museum, right? Because that certainly never happens, right? So that's what the Torah is teaching you. Okay, number 2. Number 3. Take a look, you have to see this inside. If you take a look at the word kasis, you take shemen zayis zach, pure olive oil, kasis lamor. Now the word kasis means crushed. Kasis means crushed. Now if you take a look at the word kasis, a very fascinating word kasis. Look at the first 2 letters. You get a chaf and a tuf. What is the numerical value of a chaf? What's the numerical value of a tuf? 400. Does the number 420 mean anything to you? What? Yeah, the first 2 letters of kasis. Yeah, besides that, Avi, what does this 420 mean? Why are you laughing? What?
Not sure what else 420 would refer to.
Does any?
Hitler's birthday.
It's what?
It's also Hitler's birthday.
Whose?
Hitler.
420?
Yes, April 20th.
How does anybody know that? And why does anybody care? Right? Well, yeah. Okay. What do you get him? Some cyanide for his birthday present? Okay. So 420 is the amount of time the second Beis Hamikdash stood.
That's more right.
Oh, that's what you meant, right? I knew it reminded me of something. Yeah. And what is 410? Look at the next. That's kasis. That's tough and a chaf is 420. Then you have a yud and a tough, which a yud is 10 and a tough is 410. What's 410?
Start of the construction.
What? No.
First
Beis Hamikdash. Good, we're on a roll. Oh, interesting. The word kasis, the second one stood 420 years, and the first Beis Hamikdash stood for 410 years. And what happened to both of them? They were destroyed. What does the word kasis mean? Crushed. Right? So you have, it alludes to the 2 Beis Hamikdashes which were crushed. However, kasis, they were crushed, but the third one is going to be lama'or. It's going to shine. The third one is going to shine. It's actually going to be a fire coming down from Shemaim to build the Beis Hamikdash. And how long is it going to last? Lehalos ner tamid. And it's going to be a constant flame. The third one will never be destroyed. So that alludes over here to the Beis Hamikdash. Kasis, they got crushed, but then Lamor, the third one, is going to be the light. Lahalos ner tamid, it's going to be the perpetual light. The third one is never going to be destroyed. Now it's a remarkable thing because you have the 2 Beis Hamikdashes. One stood 420 years, one stood 410 years. Now, how many Kohanim Gedolim were there in the first Beis Hamikdash? Anybody know? 18. Good guess, yeah, Avi. 18 Kohen Gadol across 410 years, which is an average of, I think it comes out to about 22 and a half on the average per Kohen Gadol. The second Beis Hamikdash was 420 years, and there were over 300 Kohen Gadols. Now, take off Shimon HaTzadik, who was Kohen Gadol for 40 years. Take off Yochanan Kohen Gadol, who was Kohen Gadol for 80 years. That's 120. Scoop off 120 from 420. What do you get? 300. 300 Kohanim Gedolim for 300 years. Do the math.
1 year.
One per year. There used to be a vitamin on TV. It was called One a Day. There was One a Day and One a Day plus iron. That was the type of a certain vitamin. This was 1 a year, right? The Kohen Gadol lasted 1 year. That means he died. Why? because in the time of the second base of Mikdash, it was a political position. They bought from the Greeks the privilege of being Kohen Gadol. They weren't worthy, and then when they went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, then they died. They didn't die necessarily in the Holy of Holies. Sometimes they died in the course of the year, but they did not last out their year. That's what the Gemara says. Whole load of questions. That's what the Gemara says, okay? Whole load of questions for time being. So they didn't last. Now, stop and think about this. I understand the first Kohen Gadol who died within the course of the year. It happens, right? Guy died. I understand the second Kohen Gadol. He also died within the year. Yeah, okay, not enough to create data. Right? But what exactly was the 77th Kohen Gadol thinking when the 76 before him had all died within the year? And some of them, by the way, died in the Holy of Holies. It actually says, the Yerushalmi says that they would tie a rope to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur when he went into the Holy of Holies. And if it didn't come out within a certain period of time, or if they felt a thud on the other end, so then they would haul him out. Right? They would pull him out by the rope from the Holy of Holies. And then the next guy had to go in. Now he's the guy I always wondered about. Like okay, he didn't work out for him. Okay, Shlomi, you're up. I'm not feeling so well today. Maybe get Chaim to go. I'm not. That's not for. You understand now? Do you understand? How could they? What was the guy thinking? I understand 1, 2, 3. Remember those popes died? They had one period where the popes were dying one after the other. There was one pope that died, then they had the second guy, and he died after a couple of months, and they put in the third one. He lasted a while, and then he died. Okay, so it could happen. 1, 2, 3, not nishkef erlich. But when you get to about 15, 20, 70, 140, Kohen Gadol number 297. Look at the statistics, man. Even those who are skeptical about statistics, at a certain point, the odds are stacked against you. So what do you think? The answer is, you see how blinding honor is. You see how blinding honor is. Therefore, the honor, listen, it's a prestigious position, and you're wearing the chest plate, and everybody's attention is focused on you, and everybody's looking at you, and he goes in, and you're blind. A person is actually blinded by the power. That's what the Torah is teaching you. So that's what it says, Kosis Labar. Okay, now, there's a message for us over here, and that is, in life, let's back up for a second. The Jewish people are compared to olives. We're compared to olives. The Gemara compares the Jewish people to olives. Why are we compared to olives? Because olives and olive oil. In order to get the oil from an olive, by the way, I'm not sure if this is true or not, there's just speculation. I would guess that most olives in the world are used for oil. There are more olives used for oil than for eating. Is that fairly? I mean, people eat olives. Some people eat olives. One of those, you either love them or you hate them. But there are a lot of olives are eaten in the world. But I would guess that more olives are used for oil because it takes a lot of olives to make oil. And the same thing is true for grapes. To make wine, how much I once said how many the volume of grapes they need to crush up to make wine. And I would guess that more, and you see from the Gemara that the main use of grapes and olives is for the oil and the wine, as opposed. And then you happen to eat some grapes also, but for the most part, it's used for wine. Okay, how do you get the olives? How do you get the best part of the olive? By crushing it up. So the Gemara says, unfortunately, the Jewish people are compared to olives. When does the best part of the Jew come out? The best part of Klal Yisrael comes out, unfortunately, when we've been under the gun, in exile, suffering, and we're under pressure, and we're being crushed, then Jewish loyalty comes out. That's why sometimes when you look at the Holocaust or any other, when you look at the Holocaust, instead of looking at the suffering, like on Tisha B'Av, the people look at the suffering, it doesn't do much to inspire us. It makes you sad. But it doesn't do much. Take a look at what people did during the Holocaust. Look at people, how they tried to smuggle a siddur into the concentration camp, or how a mother took a knife. There's a story about a woman in one of the concentration camps. There was a woman who, I think the Kleisenberger Rebbe was there, and this woman went up to the Kleisenberger Rebbe and asked him for a knife. And he said, I think it was the Kleisenberger, and he said to her, please don't do it. I know that things are rough, but don't take your own life. I can't give you a knife. You're going to take your own life if you don't do it. She said, okay. She turned to the Nazi guard and she said, can I have a knife? So this guy, he have a little sadistic fun. He said, sure, and he gave her a knife. So she took the knife and she walked over, and in the corner there's a pile of rags. And in this pile of rags, she opened it up, there's a baby she had given birth to. And she took the knife and she did a bris milah on the baby. And she said, at least my son, when you kill him, at least he'll go up to Shemayim, he'll have been circumcised. So, people, that was devotion. But those situations brought out the best of the Jew. There are a lot of Jews in the Holocaust who never missed a day of davening. They never missed a day somehow they smuggled in tefillin. So you have to focus on sometimes when Jews are crushed. Look at what happened in Russia. When under the noses of the Soviets, in Russia, in Soviet Russia, they started a pyramid system in the Soviet Union. They started a Baal Tshuva system under the nose of the Soviets. And the system was, Rabbanim used to go to Russia. They would teach them Torah. Rabbanim would go incognito. There were Rabbanim from Ohr Somayach who went to Russia. Rav Pindris was one of them. They went to Russia, with a baseball cap or whatever it was, and they would teach Torah 18 hours a day. And the Russians had a system. If you learned one thing, you taught it then to two people, and each one of them taught it to four people, to two people. And under the nose of the Soviets, they created a whole Baal Tshuva movement in Russia. Why? And I guarantee you, if you walked in a cellar somewhere in Russia where there were 10 Jews who were davening, I guarantee you none of them were talking during davening. There was no schmoozing during davening. If they were davening, if you're going, I'm going to Siberia, I'm not going to go to Siberia for schmoozing. I'll go to Siberia for davening, but not for schmoozing. And unfortunately, the Jews, by the way, one of these rabbis in Russia, you're not going to believe this. One of these rabbis went to Russia. A 17-year-old Russian kid comes over and says, I have a halachic shaila. So the rabbi says to him, what's your shaila? He says, when I study Torah, I may be to study for about 6 hours at a stretch. And after 6 hours, my mind starts to wander. Yeah, I have this problem all the time, Dylan, yeah. After 6 hours, my mind starts to wander. So the rabbi, is like, what's your shaila? He goes, well, I'm a gymnast, so I know how to stand on my head. And what I do is I stand on my head for 10 minutes, and the blood rushes to my head, and it clears out my head, and then I'm able to get myself right, and then I can study for another 3 or 4 hours. So what's the shaila? My shaila is, while I'm standing on my head, am I allowed to recite Mishnayos by heart? That was the shaila. Right? Now, I, A, cannot stand on my head. Right? B, I don't know Mishnayos by heart. Right? Can you imagine that was what was on his mind? Can I study Mishnayos by heart? We don't get that. We haven't heard that shaila so much around here. Usually it's, I forgot to say Ya'aleh V'yavo, right? My 4th time through, right? Or what do I do? What do I do if if I made the wrong bracha on thunder, right? I had guys arguing about that once. I hear in Ohr Somayach I had that question. 2 guys were arguing on the walkway. I was walking years ago. I went on the walkway, and 2 guys are arguing. And one of the guys says, "Rabbi, isn't it true that shahakol, your yotzei shahakol on everything?" So I've learned to be cautious around here. And I said, well, usually, you're not supposed to make a shakol, but b'di'evet, shakol is yotzei. So he looks at his friend like this. Right? So his friend rolls his eyes and says, Rabbi, he heard thunder and he made a shahakol. I said, yeah, no, that doesn't work. And anyway, we don't know the after bracha. So this is what the guy's asking about, standing on his head. Sometimes being crushed. What's that got to do with this? Says the Torah over here, kosis lamor. If you crush it, it produces light. Now, this applies to every one of us. And what that means is like this. We are capable of doing far more than we think. Most people in life are capable, with proper motivation, we are capable of doing far more than we think. That's a rule in life. You need proper motivation. Sometimes it happens that people who come to Yiddishkeit a little later are very driven. And sometimes we're so driven, or you're driven, or I'm driven, sometimes people are so driven that they push themselves hard. So the commentary said, you know what, you want to push yourself, that's fine. Kosis, you could crush yourself. You could push yourself on one condition, lamor, that it produces light. If you push yourself too much and it doesn't cause light, then you're pushing too hard. What's the acid test? How do you know if you're pushing too hard or not? So first of all, there's a difference between challenge and frustration. Challenge is good. Frustration is not. So let's say you decide let's say you decide you want to take on a project, you want to complete a Masechta. And you want to learn a Masechta. And you want to learn a Masechta by a certain time. And so, it's nice to have a time limit, so you have to pace yourself and push yourself a little bit. But if you start feeling pressure, and as a result of your pressure, you become a less pleasant person to those around you, that you're doing it to, and saying you're doing it wrong. That's not Kosis Lamor. Then you're pushing yourself, it's not healthy. Then it's not healthy. You should remain, the healthy, the determining factor is, am I upbeat? Am I pleasant? That's the determining factor. One of the areas, let's say a person decides, listen, I want to try to repent. Maybe I ate forbidden foods, and maybe I indulged in foods that I shouldn't have had. You know what? I'm going to try to deprive myself, which there's nothing wrong with it, by the way. I'm not going to eat unnecessary things for, let's say, a week or a month, whatever it is. Necessary, you have to eat. It's a mitzvah to eat. I won't eat on it. Let's say I decide no chocolate cake for a week is a form of penance to cleanse myself from any forbidden foods. I could deprive myself of a pleasure. It's not going to work. It's not going to reduce my health in any way. It's not going to affect me negatively anyway. You know what? How about no chocolate cake? Okay. So the first day you go without any chocolate cake. They're serving chocolate cake for dessert. And you decide no chocolate cake. How do you know if you're holding at that level or not? Should I deprive myself of chocolate cake or not? What's the answer? The answer is that if you go in the afternoon, the next time you open a Gemara, if you skipped, let's say, a second piece of schnitzel, or whatever it is, if the next time you go to study Torah, you feel upbeat, you feel energized, wow, I feel good, I actually deprived myself, that's good. But if you look down at a Gemara and say, Amar Rava, chocolate cake, right, then you're not holding on that level. Go eat your chocolate cake. You're not ready for that yet. You're not ready. You may have to make sure that you are constantly upbeat and enthused. If you're tense, nervous, that means you're doing something wrong. You, me, all of us. So we've all been through it, by the way. We try to push ourselves a little too much, and it manifests itself in not being pleasant to other people. Then we're doing the wrong thing. Yeah.
But for example, with smoking, like initial reaction is bad, like people aggressive, people nervous, and so on. But afterwards, when system is cleaning,
that's something else. That's because smoking, most people think smoking is not good for you, and smoking is obviously not good for you. And it's a good idea to quit. Any sacrifice where you're trying to do there you're not depriving yourself of that's something you're actually doing yourself a favor by putting yourself through a little suffering to quit smoking. If you try to quit smoking and it's a little unpleasant, that's like breaking any addiction. It's going to take a little bit. But I'm talking about over here about certain things that just I want to do a little bit of tshuva, but not too much, because then a person, I've seen it over and over, where people, who told you to make life difficult for yourself? Who told you to embrace that difficulty? Their halacha is demanding enough without me going and making it more difficult for myself. Who told you have to be stringent in that area? Check with a rabbi, check with somebody if it's healthy for you at this level and at this stage. We're not Rav Chaim Kanievsky just yet, and we're not Rav Moshe Feinstein just yet, and we're not these people. We have to know who we are. We have to be very, very, very honest with ourselves, where we're holding. But that's kosis. I was enchanted by this concept. Kosis, crush yourself if you want. Lamo'or, but only if it produces light. Crush yourself if it produces light. If you're not holding, if it's not producing light, then don't do it. Okay, now, one more point here on this pasuk is, why does it say, V'yikhu elecha? Now this everybody should pay attention to. Look at the previous Parsha, Parsha's Truma, on page 444. So you notice at the top it says, V'daber Hashem on 444, V'daber Hashem on Moshe Lebar, Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu li truma. They shall take truma for me, says Hashem. And over here it says, V'ata Tetzaveh el b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu elecha shemen zayis. They should take oil to you, Moshe. Right now you can't say, well, this because they put it in his hands. They put all the materials in his hands. V'yikchu li truma, they also put it in Moshe Rabbeinu's hands. So you can't answer, well, this was told to give specifically to Moshe Rabbeinu. So why is it over here v'yikchu li, and over here it's v'yikchu elecha? So I saw a profound answer. One of them, unfortunately, says like this. If you look back in Parsha Shmos, right at the end of Parsha Shmos, Perik Chaf Beis, Perik Hey, Pasuk Chaf Beis, in Parshat Shmos. So this is again that what page is it? Anybody found it?
316.
316. Thank you. So what happened when Moshe Rabbeinu originally went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He went to Paro, and all that happened was they made things more difficult for the Jewish people, right? Originally, Moshe Rabbeinu started coming in, and Paro says, oh, you're hassling me. You know what? Now we're not even going to give the people the straw. You have to go out and get the straw yourself. And they made it more difficult. And the Jewish people saw Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. They said, what good have you done us? All you've done is make our life worse. And what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? Look what Moshe Rabbeinu says. He says to Hashem like this. 6 lines from the bottom, 316. Vayoshav Moshe el Hashem vayomar. Hashem, lama hareyosa la'ama zeh. Why'd you do bad to them? Lama zeh shlachtani. Why'd you send me? Umeoz basi el paro dabrish v'chahira alav. All he's done is make things worse. V'hatzel lo hatzal tesamecha. You haven't saved your nation. V'yomer Hashem el Moshe ata tira asher esa leParo. Now you'll see what I do to Paro. And implied in this is you'll see what I do to Paro. You're not going to see what I do to the 31 kings in Eretz Yisrael. Because you're challenging me now, you'll see what I do to Paro. Implication, but not other kings. You're not going to be going into Eretz Yisrael. So from this point on, the decree is pending. When is it sealed? When Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock instead of speaking to the rock. But at this point, he's already opened up that what do you call it? Because he's already challenging HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say? Ve'ata tetzaveh b'neitzov v'yikhu elecha shemen zayich zach kosis lamo'ar. Hashem is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, you know why I want you to take the oil to you? This is the answer to you from that question over there. You asked me, why am I doing this to the Bnei Israel? You know why I'm doing this to the Bnei Israel? Because the pounding in Mitzrayim will bring out the best of the Bnei Israel, and then they'll be suitable to go and get a Torah at Har Sinai. The same way as the pounding of an olive brings out the oil from the olive. And that's why it's specifically addressed, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's going to be a lesson for you. By the way, that's why we're compared to olives. A second reason. First is to get the best part, what do you got to do? You got to crush it, pound it, beat it, what do they do? Pulverize, that's the word. Thank you, that's the word. I like that word. They have to pulverize. You got to do everything to get the oil out. There's another similarity between olive oil and Jewish people. What's the similarity? Olive oil floats to the top. Why is that? What's the similarity? Jews float to the top. That's the bottom line. Jews always float to the top. In every society, in every country, in every profession, if you open up a Time magazine looks like who's who in the Jewish world, right? When you get to finance, it's all about Jews. You get to sports, all about Jews. The owners, the commissioners, the agents, everybody except the players. Right, the concession stand owners, right, the kosher hot dogs, everything. It's all about the Jews, right, except for the players. That's like a side issue. You get to crime, the best crimes are the Jews, right? Yeah, you get some insider trading, market manipulation. You get to politics. I mean, Trump was president. He practically had a minion in the White House. Right? Yeah. You want to catch? If you didn't catch a minion at the Stiebel down the block, you went over to the White House. Right? What do you call it? In entertainment, in all. Hold on for a few minutes. In all areas, you had the Jews. That's the Jews. That's the oil always floats to the top because Klal Yisrael, we are far more in. We represent ourselves far more than the percentage of than our numbers. 25% of Nobel Prize winners have been Jews. Let's have to think about that. 25%. We do not make up 25% of the world population, gentlemen. I don't know if you're aware of that. 25%. How come 25% of Nobel Prize winners haven't been Irish? Right? How come 25% of the Nobel Prize have been from Italy? What's going on here? Okay, I don't know. Yeah, your explanation is good as mine. But bottom line is we're oil. We float to the top. It's like they talk about this Jewish woman who's walking with her kids. Some guy sees her on the street. He says, "Hey, lady, how old are your kids?" She says, "Well, the doctor's 3, the lawyer's 5." She didn't say the truck driver's 3, the McDonald's worker is 5. The doctor said, because whatever the society sees as what he calls that's what Jews are shooting for. Right? Who's the head of all the university? Who's the head of Harvard University now after they got rid of the other one? Right? They got rid of the lady. So who is it? It's a Jew. It's a Jew. When they made quotas of students in medical school, why did they make the quotas? Too many Jews. You got to block the Jews from coming to medical school, right? They didn't do that. They didn't do that. The truckers union, right? Truckers union never made a quota on Jews. Why not? Why is that? Because they see that as the pinnacle of success. If somebody thinks that's the pinnacle of success, okay, let's go on. Finish the first pasuk. That's good. Let's go on. Be'oel mohed michutz laparoches ashal idus yarochos Aaron. This is for the menorah is going to be arranged, and you'll notice that the Torah emphasizes be'oel moed in the tent of meeting michutz laparoches, outside of the paroches, which is the curtain. Asher ala edus, the curtain which blocks off the Holy of Holies. Outside of that curtain is going to be the menorah. The menorah is not going to be in the Holy of Holies. It's outside the Holy of Holies. Yarochos Aaron me'erev ad boker lifnei Hashem chukas olam l'doros me'es b'nei Yisrael. And then one of the Mefarshim points out over here. Remember we said, what does the menorah represent? The light of menorah obviously represents what? Light. Oral Torah, wisdom, right? The light that okay. Where is this light? The Torah emphasizes, why does the Torah say it's outside the paroches? It's outside the paroches. It's not inside the Holy of Holies next to the Aron Kodesh. It's outside. It's outside. Why? Why does the Torah emphasize that? The Torah wants to make sure, what's that?
Easier to access.
It's easier to access, that's true. But even though only the Kohanim can see it.
Yes, but it's still showing that the oral Torah is something that's easier to access.
Correct. But it's also telling you, some people are tempted to tamper with Torah. Some people, there are movements in Judaism, Reform, Conservative, who have decided that their wisdom is strong enough to start making changes and adaptations to Torah. Torah is telling you, use your wisdom. You're the menorah. Just remember one thing. You're outside of that Aron Kodesh. You absorb your wisdom from it. Don't take your human intelligence and use your human intelligence to affect Torah, because it always ends up in disaster. Why have all these movements that have tampered with halacha? All the movements that have tampered with halacha, third generation reform is an oxymoron. Does not exist. And all in Chicago, I can tell you that all of the conservative synagogues that were there when I was growing up, almost all of them have become from shuls now. Because the movements die out, because they use their intelligence, what they thought was intelligence, in order to affect Torah. And the Torah is telling you, no, you should develop your intelligence, and you should be a light, and you should study Torah. But you're outside of that parochos. You're not in there affecting Torah, you're being affected by it. And you have to allow it to influence you. Don't go you and try to tamper with Torah. Torah will never change. Torah is unchanged, it applies. That's why people ask, but how people ask in all generations, how does, where does the Torah say anything about electricity? Well, wait, you can't turn on lights. There were no lights when the Torah was given. There was no electricity. So the answer is it's all in Torah. It's all in Torah. It's not going to change. Oh, electricity is different. Since electricity is different, or since there's trichinosis, they could sterilize pork. Therefore, no trichinosis. But it's not going to change. Nothing's going to change. Nothing in Torah is going to change. It's going to remain the same. Yeah, what do you want to ask?
I was going to say in the Torah, the menorah is made of one solid piece of gold, which also alludes to that unchanging, like
right.
multiple
Okay.
parts. Yeah.
So, good. Okay. All right. We'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.